I'm Chris Kyme, and I'm an ad man. So when Marco invited me to join this, I wasn't quite sure how I should approach it. But I come from a background of doing TV commercials and newspaper ads and whatever. And I thought Transmedia, actually today, everything we do is anything but advertising. Brands are connecting now in many, many different ways. In the old days, you know, when we were working on campaigns, and I've been doing it for sort of over 20 years, actually more than that, but I'm okay to admit to. Generally, we get like a set formula of what media we're going to use. And these days, it's completely different because actually we're sort of invited to almost invent the media as we go along. Probably people will talk a lot about using mobile, using internet these days. It's not new media, it's old hat. And brands are using technology in many different ways that are more interesting than what we know. A great brand's a story that's always unfolding, it's never completely told. So if you look at some of the brands today that you might see around that are really active, and active in fresh and inventive ways, a brand like Coke, for example, they've been around for a long, long time. We all grew up with them, but they're always looking for new ways to express themselves and tell stories. So these days we do everything but ads, actually. It's very seldom now I get asked to do a TV commercial. I love it, it's my first love. I love making films. But generally, we don't see a lot of that. And if you notice, when you look around you in the environment nowadays, most advertising that we see is completely boring. It's just wallpaper, it's the same old thing, the same TV ads, the same posters, because I think a lot of the creativity has gone into other areas, like ambient media, where people will think of things to do in public, in the public sort of arena, or online particularly. So advertising is not necessarily what we do anymore. Transmedia in the past meant probably this: TV, print, poster, direct marketing and promotions. And every brief we got would have that on it, and you'd be doing one or two of those components, or all of them. Sorry, I've left off radio, or trade ads, which was the one that everyone dreaded having to do. You know, with every campaign that was launched, there would be a trade campaign telling all the suppliers that this is coming their way, they should support it. But these days, you know, it's just absolutely anything. So often, we prefer to get a brief from the client that's completely open. We'd rather know what is the problem rather than know what is their brief and what is the media that we're supposed to use. So some good examples of brands today that I think are reinventing things a little bit, like Nike. If you look at the Nike Fuel Band, which is actually a product idea. It's brand communications delivered via a product. And Nike's been sort of, you know, reinventing sports marketing for many, many years. And this is something taking it into a new arena where they actually invent a product idea. It's actually sort of more Apple than it is Nike. The Fuel Band, I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but it's actually sort of turning everyday life into a sport where you record your activities in terms of the calories burned and you earn points. It was delivered via online, it was delivered via products in store. There are many, many different ways that it connects. So in store you have the experience. So it is a total story, and you experience it in many, many different ways. And if anything, everything but advertising. I was trying to dig out some sort of personal experience of things I could find relevant for today. And I've been helping a Mont Blanc in China for the last sort of couple of years. And with a brand like Mont Blanc and many international brands operating in this part of the world, often the advertising is done from a head office. And it's then circulated around the world and it gets adapted. You know, so if there's a celebrity, then they'll use an Asian celebrity and so on. And so it all looks the same. It's kind of designed to be that way. So as a creative agency, when we're briefed to help Mont Blanc, we're asked to help them in anything but advertising. So our creative thinking has to be for other areas. So, you know, last year they launched the Grace Kelly jewellery collection for ladies. The stories were delivered online on their website via press releases and so on. But they also did a lot of inventive stuff in store, where the whole of this is in their Sanlitun boutique in Beijing. They had interactive experiences where you could actually go inside the palace in Monte Carlo. You could look at a film of her life. There are games you can play and so on, and these are on sort of different levels. So the total story was told at the point of sale level, and it was really interactive. There was an event that was done outside the store, so everything was sort of connected. The story was told in lots of ways. There were some ads that ran, but I don't think that they weren't given the sort of main attention. Most of what was done was very, very inventive and very, very different in the luxury sector. Another example of a brand telling a story in an unusual way, actually through an activity, was the UNICEF TAP project, which was done from New York. We see a lot of charity advertising all the time, and agencies often help those clients to sort of generate sort of donations, whatever. And I think often the public becomes very skeptical and a little bit tired of being asked in the street to give money, and there'll be some posters showing where they're doing good work. But people are always a bit sort of wary, where's this going? What's it doing for who? And the TAP project was an ingenious way to actually get donations. That's all it was. And in New York, people in restaurants are accustomed to sitting down, getting a glass of water with their meal, and that's kind of complimentary as tap water. So what they did is ask people to pay for it. It was that simple. They just said, are you prepared to donate $1 for your glass of water? And it's a bit like the other project UNICEF did in Fly, which is the change for good, which is very, very easy to do. You look in your pockets, you're going to throw them away or something, and you just put it in the envelope. And it's a very, very clever way of doing it. Beyond that, they then tell the story of where it's going and what it's doing. So this is actually taken from a film that's on YouTube that tells the whole story, and it shows where that money's going. So it's another example of a brand not using traditional advertising to achieve its objectives. So then I will just show a little bit about a recent experience I've had where we've done something which is probably less transmedia, but it's definitely a different way for a brand to be sort of telling a story. So one of our clients is Sun Life Financial, and it's insurance. And let's face it, most insurance advertising is really boring. They're just all doing the same thing. It's the same old people hugging each other and looking happy, and we're there for you and all that kind of thing. Sun Life are actually, they're a little bit more low-key. We haven't been doing so much advertising for them locally in Hong Kong. We work more with the regional office. And actually, again, we don't really do advertising. A lot of what we've been doing for them has been internal communications for their staff, with their brand, and helping them in other ways. So they came to us with a brief to create a series of short films. And the idea was to celebrate the power and beauty of the sun. That was their brief. Now, to a creative person, for an insurance company to give us a brief that asks us to make a film which is not about them, it's actually kind of like a bit of a dream come true. I was pinching myself, because normally we're asked to sort of show people loving their company and sort of the good that they're doing. And they didn't ask us to do that. They just said, celebrate the power and beauty of the sun. So it was a lovely brief. And we ended up making, there were actually 3 films that we did. One was for Hong Kong, one was for Indonesia, and one was for the Philippines. So we had to work with a different film director in each market. And I really had to put on a non-ad man hat. And I had to say to the client, do not think, this is for you. And that was also something difficult for them to sort of not want to inject things about their brand into the films. So we looked for film directors that were not traditionally doing advertising, because we didn't want it to have that feeling. The only aspect of Sun Life comes at the very, very end, and it's just a message which connects the story to the brand. So I think it was a very lovely way for a brand to be telling a story, but not intruding itself on the public. And that's the thing with most advertising, is that heavy media bombardment means that you're going to see it. It's kind of shoved down your throat. When you look at viral marketing, the beauty of that is when you get films that are successful online, is that the public, you the consumer, are in control. You watch it or you don't. And it's actually quite difficult for clients to accept this when they are briefing something like that in. And a few years ago, I worked on a film in China, which was very, very popular, a viral film about a crazy hip-hop farmer. And then other clients came to us and said, wow, that was really great, do something like that for us. And it's really hard for them to accept something which is so radically different that people are going to like it and want to see it and send it to their friends. because every client, when they're spending money on a marketing budget, want to inject as much of their hard sell into it as possible. In this case, it was difficult for Sun Life to sort of do this, but to their credit, they stuck to it. So I'm not going to show you the whole films. They can be viewed online. Each one is about 10 minutes. But we did do trailers for them, so I'll just give you a brief snippet.
4歲嗰年，我哋搬嚟倉村。由於不停畫，我啲零用錢就差唔多用晒嚟買顏色筆。婆婆，張相邊個影㗎？
四一，整俾我㗎。
聖誕到日嚟啦！
有咩幫襯啊？
我想喺婆婆屋企做花樹。
仲未夠啊！預料明天天氣轉晴。
爺爺話我出世嗰日係1960年正月初一，所以幫我改個名就叫做正一。交俾我。婆婆，我又嚟啦！
搞乜嘢啊？
一陣就知啦。婆婆，搞掂啦！
搞掂？
夠鐘就得㗎啦。
夠鐘。
婆婆，睇下。
啊，龍眼樹啊！
係每次出嚟嗰陣時咧，龍眼樹都會嚟揾你㗎。爺爺話傻唔傻唔重要，最緊要係真心做好每一件事。我唔係好明，佢叫我記住，但係我就會知。
So the story was a little boy who meets a bedridden old lady, and she misses going out and seeing nature, so he uses the sun to find a way to bring nature into her, sort of using shadows. So if you get a chance to have a look at it. It was shot by Stanley Wong, who's a local artist and film director. It was his first actual short film. He's done commercials in the past before, but he's very celebrated as an artist. And Stanley had done an installation called Painting by God. That was where he placed white canvases in the outside arena and let shadows form to create images. And it was sort of a lot of coverage in the press, but so we went to him and said, we want to turn that into a film. That's the ending, what's the beginning? You know, that's how we sort of did it. And I'll just show you the film from Indonesia. And this is a story about two children who want to cheer up people in their neighborhood. And they get an idea from their grandmother to capture sun rays in jars, which they then go out to sell to people. To sort of brighten up their lives, believing it will brighten up their lives. Oh, sorry. So these were launched in cinema and designed to be delivered online. The dedicated website is there. They're only done last year, but the idea is the website will be about stories about the sun. So it's designed to have people upload their own experiences, and it's designed to sort of grow and move forward. And we might be making films in other markets for them. But just designed to connect with people in different ways. And asking consumers to sort of think about the sun and the benefits of the sun and so on. So it's a story about the sun, not about sun life. And if you want to see the films, the website is experiencethesun.com, so you'll find them on there. And that's the end of my short story. Thank you.
Chris. Thanks very much.
What I'm going to actually share with you is probably not as creative as what you just said, what you just say. The Hong Kong Jockey Club apparently is one of the largest charity organizations in Hong Kong. We run horse racing as well as a betting platform on behalf of pretty much the Hong Kong government. And then we are the largest taxpayer in Hong Kong. Put that aside, we are also one of the probably most technology advanced organization in Hong Kong in applying different type of technology from live horse racing coverage and bringing in a lot of new camera gear and so on. But that's not what I'm trying to share with you today. We are going to talk about Transmedia. I just want to share with you about what I actually discovered last year when I was in the States regarding how the online viewers changes. That's pretty much one of the triggers that affects how the Jockey Club actually look at how we apply transmedia technology into our what we call our customer-centric approach. Well, if you look at how the customer are changing their habits for online viewings in comparing to a TV viewing, then you would understand why we actually move towards mobile devices. Well, that's the US figure for your brains, and then the behavioral changes is when they actually, majority of the viewers in the States, in Hong Kong, and even in China. I did actually deliver a seminar last week in China, also sharing with the students on new media and transmedia approaches. Basically, it's because of the behavioral changes. So when I look around during the seminar, actually quite a lot of people are doing a lot of different things, not just actually listening to speakers. They are doing multiple tasks by using their smartphone, their iPad, or using wireless to connect with something outside of this room. So instead of sitting in front of the TV or in front of your PC, you are actually multitasking. And majority of the customers that we are facing today are actually doing exactly the same thing as what we are doing inside this room. So you're listening to me as well as kind of actually working on your Mac Air, on your iPhone, or something else, or Samsung tablet. And this is actually for the American customers. And then if you look at what happened to Hong Kong and China, in Hong Kong we have over 7 million people living here. But if you look at the penetration, well, it's a lacking of the English title up there, but that's the penetration rate of our mobile usage. So with 7 million, over 7 million people, we have 16 million mobile phones connected to the network, and the penetration rate is over 200%. But if you look at China, last week when I presented this, they were actually laughing on how little the population in Hong Kong comparing with China, but the penetration rate is actually much more higher. So each of us are actually having probably 2 mobile phones, or 3, or 2.5 mobile phones. I have a BlackBerry offered by the Jockey Club, I have my own iPhone, and I also have a Samsung phone with few cards. So I've got 3, plus the 3G network on the iPad. So that's how the whole number of connections are being pumped up. Okay, after we look at all the statistics, then we look at the viewing habits, how they changes. So people are not actually watching their TV or doing their own things at home, and then their behavioral changes are actually when they're traveling, when they are actually having lunch in between tasks, and when they're bored in meetings, like when you're really bored listening to me, so you do other things using your smartphone. So the behavioral changes is actually quite significant comparing with when we are actually kind of growing up and sitting in front of the TV or just sitting there reading our newspapers. So whatever we are going to offer, it has to be anytime, anywhere. So it applies to both information and also videos, data, and so on. So we look at how transmedia can help us. Okay. Oops. Okay, it's everything that we are doing today is all about using different platforms. So it's all about cross platforms. I mean, from our applications point of view regarding transmedia. And it's also about content variations. So the same content that you use could actually appear differently on the various platforms that you are able to use or exploit. So we did, from the content producer's point of view, we do a lot of repurposing. So just one type of content will be repurposed for different platform users, or actually having that particular content being complemented by statistics and or other data to tell the full story. And then it's going to be interactive too. So people are no longer like to be spoon-feed. So they want to actually explore and search. I think that is pretty much the behavior of the new generations when they get used to using the internet. So they do not actually want you to give them a lot of information, but what they really enjoy is for you to give them kind of a path so that they can, based on that particular path, search for whatever they need. And then I took a really simple example because last week I talked to a gentleman called Stephen Quinn. Stephen is actually conducting seminars teaching the Asian News Network reporters to use a mini iPad to shoot news stories. The good thing about that is because he can also incorporate the news story shoot by the mini iPad and edit it with the iMovie, and then combine that particular video with the text to create e-books in an actually really short period of time, and then publish it through the iTunes service. So it's a lot of things that we are doing previously, like writing, shooting photos, and then making films or videos, which are actually being combined to be multimedia content that is made available in various platforms. And then from the Hong Kong Jockey Club's point of view, we actually try to be more customer-centric, and then after we analyze the customer behavior, and after we look at the penetration of the mobile devices and so on, what we try to do is actually to capture those behaviors, and then be more from looking at what we are doing things from the customer's point of view, and then create new stuff. Okay, what we did is in the last 10 months, we did two things. Well, we actually create what we call a trendy Kyme app, which is what I'm going to show you here. Sorry. Right, initially, we actually copy the Hong Kong trendy card and then create a stack of cards for our customers as actually a free gift when they actually come into the race course as part of a promotion for our TV programs. And then last season, we actually started to convert the card into an app. And then on top of the animations that you see, we also have kind of like a video incorporated into the apps. So when they come into the racetrack, we not only we give them a stack of cards, based on the card and the QR code, they can also actually download the app. And then it's kind of making the whole thing much more cross-platform. So you could have the printed stack of cards with information readily available. But for the in-depth analysis or in-depth explanation of what that particular racing jargon means, and you want to see the real thing in video, then you can actually use the apps to watch it. Well, on the top left is actually the card, the stack of card itself, and then this is the app that I just showed you. Why we actually do those things? I mean, the club is actually very focused on the philosophy of customer-centric. So what we are trying to do is, based on the behavior, we capture the customer behavior, rejuvenating our existing information and content, and then we package it through the new technology approach. And then by using that, we can actually reach out to new customers. And then the second things we did and still doing, because we have not officially launched the second screen app yet, is we are actually going to launch a second screen app in Hong Kong. We probably are the first to do it with live TV in Hong Kong. It's actually what we call a race-up app. Well, the reason why we have to do the second screen app is because, well, people are more inclined to actually watch TV as well as using their smartphone to connect to the club's website to look at data and other relevant information. And then at the same time, they are socializing with their fans, and then they have their own circle of kind of friends that they're talking to each other regarding their horse selection and so on. And then we are also looking at, well, the world is no longer working on a linear time frame, so we provide them with additional information through a non-linear environment. I'm going to well, for the second screen apps, well, we looked at the second screen app when we were in the States last October, and how those second screen apps are actually helping the interaction with the primary screen and the secondary screen. For a lot of the news in the States, you've got a lot of chats being posted while you're watching news already. So it's actually interacting and direct dialogue with the anchor is actually made possible by the second screen. And then it's got voting for the variety shows, and then for the drama series, it's also got the protagonist character analysis being posted. If you look at the Hannibal, the AXN TV series Hannibal, it's already got a second screen app that can detect the dialogue, and then it pop out the profile of the character. And then it also provides you with additional information regarding the murder. So it's kind of like additional data, additional information to complement what you are watching on screen. And then this is what the club already developed, and we are going to launch it in late August this year. It's called Racing Live, and then you can actually scan the QR code and then download the app. It's actually not a native app, it's actually pretty much a web app, so that you can use it on iPad, Samsung tablet, PC, and Mac. We are distributing some of the iPads so that you can actually have a real-time try out of it. Oops. Right. Okay. This is what we provided to our customer. So once it's actually you connected, you download the app, and then based on the race meeting, we will pump out information to you. And then these two frames are actually for photo updates. And then we can actually type up comments immediately, and then it would show on screen. The actual application comes with an editorial tools, so my teammates are actually working downstairs, and then you can actually see my comment being popped up pretty soon. And then you can also, those people who do those, people who have the apps can also participate here. So you can see the comments popping up. But the beauty of this whole thing is not just you can actually do it, do the comments and then chat about horse racing or whatever you want to chat about. The comments that you post, we can actually put it live on the ATV HD channel Asia. So it becomes actually quite interactive, and then the comments and the answers that we interact with our customers is actually provided by the presenters. So if the customer or the viewer posts something relating to a particular horse, the presenter will actually provide them with answers or comments. And then they actually interact among themselves. Well, through the process, we've got an editor who filter out obscene languages or irrelevant comments. But still, I mean, for the first trials that we did in the Hong Kong Derby, on one day we've got 1,067 people connected and then communicated with each other. So this is the first trial in Hong Kong to use a second screen for live program. Well, TVB has tried to use the voting game, and we can actually try to work on the game too. Oh, thank you for all your comments posted. Okay. Well, if you like, would you like to rate today's Webfest by actually submitting your comments? You just have to press the button. Sometimes it's not responding too well. The server is right now in Sha-Tin Racecourse. So after you vote, we are going to display your result pretty soon. We can also upload a photo of behind the scenes. So it's actually getting, well, this is the results that of all of your voting popping up. So it's not just we are pushing information out, we are actually providing a platform for interactivity as well as for participation. And then these two windows that you saw, we usually pump out statistics as well as behind the scene photographs. For example, like celebrity photographs visiting the race course, or someone chatting with the trainer or the jockey to provide additional information for people to mark you out there. So it's actually quite a flexible platform, and it's actually bringing in new experience when you watch TV. So, well, I hope all of you enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you. So just round it up. You've got all those first-hand information, and then this is the screen that once your comment's done, we can show the statistics of your votes in graphical format, as well as put up your comments on the screen immediately. So while we use the second screen, we are using it to connect the TV presenter with of our audience. And then we are complementing our live TV with supplementary information like statistics and behind the scene photographs. And then we are engaging our customer via the voting game. And then let the customers themselves interacting with each other through the chat room. And then also let them to show off maybe their special comments on horses or their special selections on live TV. So that's what the Hong Kong Jockey Club is doing with the new generation of technology, and then we are doing a lot of things on a cross-platform as well as for Transmedia, not just on TV, but using different type of technology on cross-platforms. Okay, thank you.
All right. So why does the Jockey Club always be at the forefront of technology? How come? I mean, I know you always have the newest cameras, you always have the newest cranes or whatever. So why? I mean, this is extremely fascinating for me.
I think what we are trying to do is not just at the forefront of technology, but we try to capture what the customer wants. The most important thing is because customer behavior changes much faster in this decade. Because comparing with when I was growing up, the world kind of moved in a much more slower pace. So you watch TV and then your family is really happily together and then sit in front of your TV after dinner, enjoy the Hong Kong variety show that's been a really long time, you enjoy yourself tonight thing. But currently, I mean, the life does not actually spin like that. So we try to capture what the customer requires. I think it's similar to what 3x3 is doing. They're capturing what the customer's behavior changes, which is quite fragmented because we no longer sit right in front of the TV or even we do not actually surf the internet continuously. But we actually have our world pretty much fragmented into time frames of around 5 to 8 minutes. We did a survey with Discuss.com in Hong Kong. Their concentration duration is between 5 to 8 minutes. And then the kids, what we call the golden kids, are actually only watch video no longer than 8 minutes. So how are we going to actually get hold of their attention and to capture the new generation of customer? That's what we are doing. We provide alternative camera angles instead of just normal horse racing coverage. We provide a lot of different things for them to choose. The racing jargon and how we turn the racing jargon into a trendy card is one thing, and then how we are trying to use the web app, the Race Up second screen app to actually capture and then try to entice their attention back to horse racing is another thing. Because horse racing is in a 30-minute cycle. After two minutes of excitement of the race, you are actually getting into a cycle of waiting for information, waiting for result and dividend. I mean, kids no longer, or the younger generation, no longer has that type of a span of attention. So how we are going to actually capture them and then engage them, we have to actually give them something to do. Well, I'm actually fascinated with the 3x3 and the game. I'm very anxious to watch your video.
Thank you so much.
I'm just wondering, where does the motivation come from? Because I mean, you're basically a lottery organization, right? And when I think about these lotteries in Europe or in the US, then they have basically no motivation to do any extra content because they know people will come anyway. People will buy the tickets anyway. People will always go to horse racing. So where's the motivation for you for the Jockey Club to always come up with something new?
We are actually facing with a very difficult situation of losing customers. And then, as I just said, I mean, people no longer want to sit in front of the TV waiting for a 30-minute interval between races. So around 5 years ago, we actually had a task force to look at the risks that we are facing. And our senior customers are getting more senior, and then their disposable income is getting less. And then the problem with the Jockey Club is we have actually a very strong commitment with the government of donating at least $1 billion each year for charity work and social work. So if you look at the commitments that we have, we really have to think of a way to ensure that the hospitals are funded, schools are funded. I mean, a lot of the things that are happening in Hong Kong are not financed by the government. It's financed by Hong Kong Jockey Club. I mean, the Jockey Club, the Jockey Club Concert Hall in the PolyU, the Baptist College Media School was all funded by the Hong Kong Jockey Club, and then hospital, medical research and stuff. So it becomes a necessity for us to ensure that our income can satisfy the Hong Kong community's demand. So it's actually for us, we have a mission to make sure that we grow our customer base. So to do that, we have to actually use a lot of new technology and new approach. And I think the same thing with the film industry. I mean, the ways that you do your video and the way that you actually entice a video with a game or engage your viewer with the game is exactly the same thing. So we are expanding our customer base or your viewer base.
Yeah, for 3x3, in fact, we want to put the user in the center of everything, and you want to put inside a universal story. And for me, because I'm an artist, to ask a simple question, really important. What is the difference now between the reality and the virtuality, and how I can manage this? Because now when you are on social network, you can do that you want, and there is not limit sometimes. And consciousness and information on social network are really a lot of information that we have to understand, and maybe in some many years it will be a completely different world. It's like now like a renaissance for us, and you have to ask a good question, and like I said in my story, it's like a maze.
So you said you already have a sort of prequel of the web series, right? So 27 episodes.
Yeah, we shot 27 episodes for the prologue, and we wrote two seasons. In fact, we want to shoot 3 seasons. It will be 3 seasons for 3x3. We hope so. And the first one will be in Paris. The second one will be in London. And we would like to make the third one in Hong Kong. And we want to show, and every time the main character will be the city. And we want to put bridge between the city for the art direction. In fact, the first will be a thriller, like you said in the prologue. For London, we want to be like a horror or horrific, like I love this American horror story with a lot of references. And for Hong Kong, it's sci-fi, science fiction.
What about finance? How do you want to finance it?
When we start for the prologue, at the beginning we are 5 people. I wrote this 10 years ago, and I can imagine it was possible. But with the numerical revolution, with 5D, with a lot of things, it was possible 5 years later. I always play video games. I always consider video games that's a success, not an enemy from the cinema, but a compositor, an ally. And it was possible on this time to federate people. And we start to shoot without authorization in Paris, and really quickly we increase the number of our crew, and at the end will be 200. I put my own money, not a lot, and after we made a crowdfunding campaign just for the web series, and now we think about how I can monetize all those things if I want to continue. So a web series, like I said, is a launcher, big launcher. Because when you arrive to a channel, you have to come, when you are not famous or when you have not a big franchise, you have to convince them that you have already a public. So create things to federate a public before. And that's the key with video games. Now there is a freemium, free to play. You can sell your video games for free at the beginning. And we built all that system like this. At the end of each episode, as a cliffhanger, you want to know the rest, and it will be the same for each episode on the point-and-click game. And for the beginning is free each set games for free, and if you want to see the rest, you have to pay.
So you're basically looking for local production partners and financing, right? So in London and
yeah, we found we are really close to Paris, so we done too much, and we want to London and Hong Kong.
But I think you have a lot of opportunities in terms of branding, in terms of product placement, especially when you talk about a city.
Yeah, for example, in Paris, we think about that before. We choose a strategic place and to put perfume to show the spirit of Paris, the beauty, and we will do the same thing for when you write a story. You have to think to your brand before on the stage.
So for the Jockey Club, what's next? So you have that second screen app now. You will probably launch it soon. What then?
Well, we are actually looking for gamify the whole thing, and then trying to what we are trying to talk about regarding gamify the whole kind of gamification of the whole thing is we are also trying to actually virtualize some of our races and make it more game-like. That would be the next step. We are trial with the system right now, but I'm actually really amazed at how you can actually put the character from story into the cartoon, and then maybe we can have a talk on how we can actually put the customer into the position of a jockey.
I want.
But it would be amazing.
I think it's because I think with Transmedia and with technology advancement and then the different front of creativity, every day we learn something new, and then every day we see something new that could be applicable to what we are doing. So kind of share our experience and try to learn something, and then I'll learn something from you too.
Me too. And I want to speak about it just a minute for gamification, like you say. I think it was at the beginning you have to put on your script a gameplay, and you have to choose what kind of game it will be connected with your script, and since the beginning. So it requires experience about what kind of game I can put. For example, for 2x3, we will be a different kind of game for each season. That's it.
All right. Then let's open up the floor for questions. I'm pretty sure there are a lot, even though we have a lot of people. Yes.
May I ask again? It might be a question for both, but more addressed to the 3x3. You said you produced a game and a web series, games and a web series of the episodes. You conceived and planned out 10 years ago. Within 1 year, with the help of 200 people. And even though you say this comes out of your own pocket, may I ask again how this was possible? Because in sense of even working with 20 people for a year, that's substantial kind of money, or a lot of dedication for the people in there. So how did it work out in the sense of producing it still? Because it's high production value as well. You have to have the gear, the equipment, people staying there, and also making an app out of it, making a game out of it. That's not kind of a simple weekend job. You just apply to some friends and then you're done. Just to encourage, or probably discourage people here in the audience who want to know how to start that in a realistic way.
Yeah, in fact, I'm really lucky about that. I don't know what's happened, you know. I was I was depressed, and I arrived at, I started to be an actor when I was 9 years old. I always did that in Paris. In Paris, there is a lot of artists they want to work, and especially in this time when you have not money for make a lot of production, but we are all try to do something. And I arrived with this script that I found on my room, and I say, hey, I have big things, so come with me. And the story talk to everybody because it starts from nothing, just who I am, and people follow me and they present me a guy from animation, and we start to dream, and I just put, it's not enough, but we want crowdfunding 20,000, and I put 30,000 on my own pocket. It's not, but I don't pay people. I will pay when we are. In fact, to be honest, we are now really close to sell a project in France and a lot of countries, and we will pay my team. But my team is really proud because we, in our country, nobody leave a chance to us. We go to financial circle. We made our own company, but it's down already because nobody help us. But everything starts, but we stay because we are young. We want to make movies. We want really, and what there is maybe a hole sometimes. And I saw Transmedia, and I always write my story like Transmedia, but I didn't know that Transmedia exists. And I see a lot. I heard about Transmedia formation, like a new wave. Say, hey, there is some place for us, guys. And we grew up with video games. Look at this. Sorry to say that. look at the other guys. They didn't grow up with this. For us, it's natural, and for our kids, it will be natural too. So it is our chance. We have to take it, and we take it, and we believe in this. And now, after 1 year, we already all people works for this presentation, and they never stop. They want to continue the story. They want to be at the end of the 3x3 season. That's it.
There was another question for you.
This is a question for Damien. So you had a fairly successful social media fundraising.
Yes, crowdfunding.
Yeah, crowdfunding. Sorry. Yeah. So what was the major factor that allowed you to raise
so much money?
Yeah.
It's crowdfunding is really difficult because you have to federate. You start to federate your community, and we made the big trailer that you see, and the big trailer we made the campaign after shooting. That is because even with this trailer, television doesn't want to produce it at the beginning because we are not famous and blah 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 and Transmedia. So we have to prove something on the crowdfunding campaign. The most important thing with crowdfunding campaign is not the money, but you have to raise a lot of money to prove something. And at the beginning, you have different circle in crowdfunding campaign. You have, for start, you have friends. You have the friends of your friends, and after you have the web. You have you have to make trust, and the trust starts from your family until the user. And the other key for a successful campaign is to have a good retribution. And for us with Transmedia, it's quite easy because you have video games, you have access platform, and you can put the user in the center at the beginning without there is a lot of goodies to give, and we have a graphical things. And the thing is with video games community, they love that. They love that, and they love crowdfunding. And I speak before about point-and-click game. Today, point-and-click games are not produced because video games want 3D and a lot of things. And I saw on crowdfunding, like Kickstarter, there is a lot of old guys who produce like Broken Sword, and they want a lot of money in. And you have to identify your community. And my community was a guy like me who loves old video games. I call that retro gaming. Retro gaming, yes. Old games like Monkey Island, There's Tentacles, or Myst. We love this kind of game where you have to think about this. And there is a really huge community, not in your country, but in each country. That's it.
Do I have time for a follow-up question?
Yes.
Okay. So I noticed that you used a different website, so not Kickstarter or Indiegogo.
Yes.
Why did you choose that one? And did that
Ulule,
make a difference?
Ulule.com. It starts from Paris. Ulule is French, and at the beginning we said in Paris, and so I think it was a good idea. And Ulule is not dedicated to movie, or is dedicated to a lot of things, even for gardening. So for Transmedia, it was 1 year ago. So Transmedia is really hard to explain to people, and it's really hard to. And there's a lot of Transmedia. There is a lot of things, and Kickstarters for me is really dedicated to video games. Indiegogo more for movies, and Ulule is everything.
You, yeah.
That's okay?
I would like to have a question to the second screen, because for me, like the Hong Kong Jockey Club is a lot about life experience, which means if I'm at the race course. So are there any plans to multiplicate this also like in an app? Because I find it like, for me it's like, if I'm going betting, I would go to the Hong Kong Jockey Club, the location, so to Shatin or to Happy Valley. But for me, for example, betting online as a young customer is not the experience I would like to do for kind of this system like horse racing, because it's really like you are there, you have the whole flair, it's like kind of social event. So isn't it hard to copy this somehow into an app?
No, we are, well, I cannot expose our commercial secret. But just for your ear, we are going to have actually an iPad app, which is going to be launched pretty soon. Probably we are at the final stage of testing it. It's going to provide the younger customer yourself a completely different experience of even watching the horses parading in the racetrack, and then how the information are presented. So probably wait for another 2 weeks, and then it's going to be soft launch for online testing, and then it's going to be officially launched in September for the new racing season. But it's a totally new experience for gaming.
Okay. It was like, because you were talking before, like your audience is getting older, and for me it's like the experience is like in the locations in the shop. I experienced, yes, the audience is older, but on site, like in Happy Valley, I think the audience is pretty young somehow.
That's the good thing about the beer garden that we established around 5 years ago in beer garden. That's also a way to actually combat the change of our customer segment. So we changed Happy Valley into a Wednesday night hangout venue with the cheapest beer available in Hong Kong. So if you don't bet, come around and have some beer. And then we also have actually an iPad-enabled restaurant just right up from the beer garden. So when you come into the venue, we give you an iPad to participate in the games that are available in the venue, and then to also chit-chat with our very pretty racing specialists. So I mean the whole thing is changing. I mean not just the online experience, but the live experience is also changed. So going back to the Transmedia thing, I always believe Transmedia is not just about an online platform. It's about everything. It's about multiple touch points of the customers. I mean, well, from my point of view, it's with the information that we or the chats that we are listening in the afternoon, probably the Hong Kong Jockey Club is more commercialized in handling how technology would help our business in turn to help the Hong Kong community. And then we are actually looking at multiple touch points. So Transmedia to us is really important, but we are not limiting Transmedia on the online platform, but through our venue experience and how the venue experience could be part of the brand narrative of the whole customer experience within our leisure industry. So this also applied to one of the recent experience that I have when I attended the Singtel's Illumini IT conference in Hong Kong. So they actually, when you come into the venue, they actually ask you to download an app, and then through the app, you actually pose questions to the panel, as well as actually participate in the games when they are actually having lucky draw and so on in the technical seminar. So it's actually the Transmedia thing is pretty much about multiple touch points. So it's not only limited to online, but it's available everywhere.
I have a question. What kind of game do you choose, and how you can manage this? Because we have a lot of possibilities when you start in Jockey Club, and I think how is your team about this, and how you function?
Right, we are actually exploring different type of things right now. We've already got a simulator games in my iPad, which you can actually change to the speed of the horses and change the health situation of the horses so that the result will be different.
Like Sims. All right, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So I mean, we are doing quite a lot of those in small things, which is to actually capturing the change of our audience.
Yes. It sounds like a really fancied Mark Bakuchi. When you're feeding your okay. Anyone else? Then I would say we wrap it here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.